Alrighty, 3, 2, 1, go.
We're on it. Do all of our shout outs, Frank.
Oh, yeah.
Tell the people where they can find us.
Before we start, you got to check us out on BitChute, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram, Facebook.
I think that's all of them. Covers all the bases. We're here with June Scott today.
Oh, wait.
Past teacher. What?
Shout out to Ross Flowdy.
Shout out to
Hey,
Ross
everybody.
Flowdy.
How you doing? I got corralled into this. I was just walking by, and they grabbed me and pulled me in. I didn't know what that was about, but I'm here. So
We're
thanks
happy
for
to
having
have
me,
you.
guys. Yeah, thanks for asking me. I appreciate it. It's fun.
Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I had these 3 yahoos in class, and I taught for 40-some years, 42 years. And I started out at IC where I went to school. And then I got a job at the junior high, and I was interviewed for that job, of all places, at the IC Festival. Yeah. The principal came to the IC Festival while I was working there, and he said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So we went into a room, and that was that. And then they called me on Monday and said, "Hey, if you want the job, you got it." So I got a job at the what at that time was called the junior high, which I still call it that, but at the junior high, now in the middle school, and taught there for 5 years. And then I moved over to the high school and into my career over there, and they were all good years. I mean,
Wait, the middle school was called the... I thought you were talking about the field house for a second.
No, the
Because wasn't the field house a school too?
Yeah.
It was originally the high school years ago, and then it was, they had the junior high in there. When I was in college, I had to do a participation thing, and I went in there and to participate, and that's where the junior high was for a while. And then they built the new junior high. I don't know what that was. Maybe somebody will call in, but 76 maybe, somewhere around in mid 70s. Then they built the junior high, what they called a junior high, which was really a junior high at that time. It was a 7th and 8th grade. And then I taught there for 5 years in special ed, which really kind of changed my whole attitude about teaching. Maybe more sympathetic to kids just made me more sympathetic to kids, period. Kids' needs and stuff, instead of demanding, got to have your homework, got to have your homework, got to have your homework. And you guys know I was kind of on that, but you guys were good students. So, you should be doing your work. But, some kids would come in and the last thing on their mind was doing homework. I mean, they had other baggage they were carrying, and it was tough for them. I mean, it was just rough. And, you could just sometimes tell when kids walk in the door and it's like, oh my God, they're struggling today. And, so it made me that job made me more attuned to.
And when you were teaching at IC, were you teaching special ed as well?
No, I was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade social studies teacher. So those were good years. And something about the parochial school, and I'm not bad-mouthing it at all, it was a good thing, that they could do things differently than what the public school could do. They could not get away with things, but they could do that. We went on field trips. We'd take them overnight camping trips down to Hocking Hills and hang out down there, or we'd go here, we'd go there, and just stuff like that. And those were really, really good years. And I don't know what it's like now. I haven't been in there.
At IC?
Yeah.
My little brother went through it, and it's just a lot smaller classes, I think, now,
Yeah.
My nephews are going through IC class. Yeah, they're going through IC.
They're what, through 6th grade now?
Yeah, my oldest nephew is going into 7th grade now.
Okay.
So he's out of that, but all the rest of them are in IC.
Yeah, that was always a big transition. When you were an eighth grader, by the time you get onto the junior high age, you had those, kids kind of had associations with kids from the public school, through baseball teams or, sporting teams and stuff like that. So they kind of made a connection. And then by the time they then walked in as freshmen into high school, they kind of already knew some guys and it was kind of cool. And then they met other people and it was good stuff. But now that it goes to the sixth grade, they don't have that type of social maturity.
Right.
So they don't make those connections sometimes, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And now that transition is a little bit different. So
it is weird, like even like West Elementary and East Elementary is when we all came together. It's like, holy cow, who's this guy? I kind of knew him, but I didn't really know him because we never went to school together. I thought it was super weird.
Yeah, and I kind of like the fact now that what they've done is they've made the primary building. Every kid goes to that building. Then they make the elementary building, I guess. Primary, I think, is east. The elementary building is west. And then every kid goes to the intermediate school. I think that's what they call it.
Yeah, intermediate school.
Yeah. And they go to that intermediate building, and then they kind of hook up, and they kind of all know each other, and then they go to the junior high. They all know each other.
I think that's a much better way of doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
There's always a huge debate. Like for us, my mom was always told that we had to go to West, and she was like, "No, they're going to East," because I guess it was just a different. I think maybe my friends were there. It was a different like socioeconomic thing, and weird. That's kind of a weird way to have it. A little bit of segregation almost.
You know why? It's funny you say that because when we were looking to move, we were going to buy a house, and our realtor, who I want to mention, said, "Oh, you want to move to the east side so your kids can go to East School," and it was a big deal then. So now they've joined all those guys, and
I think that's a wise move.
I think it's a wise move too, and I think when the levy passes. Whenever it passes and they build that one elementary building, every kid's going to be in there. You're not going to have the primary. You're not going to have every kid's going to be in that building, and that's the way it ought to be. You'll still have the IC kids and stuff. But
that levy, do you think it would have passed if this COVID-19 wouldn't have came through?
Well, I think Bill Sell told me that it only failed by what, a couple hundred votes or something like that?
I heard it was actually pretty close.
It was really close, a couple hundred votes. I would say there's a good possibility that it could have. People didn't get out to vote, or they were afraid to get out to vote. So yeah, it might have had a factor on it. And
do you think actually like having a brand new building for things would that actually like help students learn, or would and bring new teachers in maybe or something like that? Would that attract, I guess, better people?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of cool driving around in a new car.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, and so having a new building, it may attract different people. I don't know if they're going to be any better instructors. I thought when I was there at the high school, I thought we had a great team of people, at least in our department, a great team of people that worked well together. And, kids walked out of there. I think they knew something when they walked out. I mean, you guys would attest that. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes or no? I mean, yes or no?
As long as you don't test me on it, yeah.
Is there going to be a test on this thing? So, I think we did a good job for everybody. Now, will a new building do that? God, Jake, man, you heard me, man.
I mean, because that's what I heard about a lot about this levy. Like, right? It's going to help kids learn. And I'm like, it's a new building. I mean, I don't know. And that's what I heard about this levy. So
I know the building definitely is old, so I get that.
It is early.
But just like Harvard, Yale, and all the other Ivy Leagues, those are just all... They're all just as old.
Let's go right to the heart on that.
Yeah. I don't know if you could compare Harvard and Yale fairly to Celina High, at least like as constructed and things like that. But I don't know.
There's something to say about new. And then, let's throw in a new technologies. Let's throw that in or not. I don't know any of the stuff. I don't know anything about this stuff. I can call on my phone and ask the phone to do something. But as far as, I got to think, and to back up just a minute, I got to think that the end of the school year, when they were doing that electronic stuff, I don't know if you guys went off to school or not, but I mean, a lot of the courses I took in my latter educational career of learning was, a lot of it was online stuff, but now that's evolved into this humongous thing. And I don't know. I mean, personally, I wouldn't mind going back to school again, but I don't know why. My wife says why, but I don't know.
Do you want to learn more?
Yeah, learn a little more maybe, but I don't know if I could deal with that stuff. I'm a face-to-face guy.
Yeah.
Well, they
Yeah.
say like,
And you guys know that. I mean,
yeah.
you know
Oh, yeah,
how it was.
absolutely.
I'm a face-to-face guy, so
If I was a student who's going to be taking your class, if you were a teacher and then I learned we were going to be taking online, I would be very disappointed just because
Oh,
there is
yeah.
some of that face-to-face that is lost in communication. Some classes it wouldn't matter as much. Some professors, some teachers it wouldn't matter as much. But for someone like you and a student like me, I love being there and hearing that lecture-heavy, story-based kind of.
I was
experience.
definitely whenever I walked into your classroom, I'm like, oh man, I hope we just like debate about something. I hope we get into something here.
oh,
Like,
bro,
we
you
can
already
talk
got your
about
A.
it.
Come on, man, you're out of here. Get out of here. I've had kids say that to me in the past about coming in and they like the conversation, and my thinking always was, I think you guys remember this, is don't raise your hand, just talk. If you got something you want to say, just don't step on somebody else. Just talk and throw in your 2 cents worth. And I think that worked out pretty well. That was my MO. That's what I thought was worked the best for me. And if I got to wait for somebody to put their hand up, or some kid's not motivated to put their hand up, but they'll talk, let them talk. Here's something else I want to say about that. They at one time wanted to create. They wanted a college to come in, and they wanted that course to be collaborated with the Wright State. And
Psychology course.
Okay.
yeah, it was psychology, and they wanted that to be a combination with the college. And I never wanted to. I mean, I'd been asked a couple times to teach at the university or at the Wright State, and no, I'm not going to do that. You need professional higher education teachers to teach there. That's what you need. That's always been my opinion. So I always declined. But they offered that, and they said, well, we'll give you courses that you only have the best kids in. Well, you know what? Some of the best students that I had in there were not the best students. They weren't the best students. They were kids. Some of those kids would come in there, and they might be just barely passing, but they had something to offer. And kids sitting next to them, they would say something like, "Yeah, Mr. Scott or whomever, whatever. Hey, what about this? I mean, my neighbor," and you always knew when they said their neighbor, it was talking about them. And my neighbor they got kids and they're getting smacked around and stuff. And what do you think of that? They'd ask me questions like that, and not all of them had it, but some of them did. And other kids I had valedictorians in class. I had all kinds of kids, but you know what? The kids that were the better kids would sit there and look at those guys and say, "Oh my God, I never knew people had to go through this crap." You could just see it on their faces, and it was like, yeah. The whole world is not made up of just 3.8 GPAs. I mean, so, and I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 more. And no reflection on you guys, but the smartest kid I ever had in class, ever, was this kid that wore the same clothes every day, sat right over there to the right, and he would sit there and smoke like a fiend, rode this old Kawasaki 400 motorcycle to school year-round. And this kid was just, you'd line up all the kids and say, okay, June, pick out the best kid in your class. He would be, if there are 10 kids, pick out the best kid. He would be like the 15th kid you'd pick by his looks. That type of kid. But you know what? That kid would come up with stuff, and he'd say things. He would just like, I go, where'd you come up with that at? He said, I was just thinking about this the other night, and I really thought this was something. And he would talk about it, and the kids would just like, their jaws would drop open and say, what the heck? And graduation came around, kid graduated, disappeared. A few years later, I asked his mother, I said, where's Billy at, or whatever. And she said, "Oh, he's out in California." I said, "Oh, he is." I said, "What's he doing?" "Oh, he's getting his PhD at Stanford."
Wow.
Yeah. So
crazy.
it's like, you know what? Some people wrote him off. Well, look at the way he looks, or something like that. And you know what, guys? It's not just, Lord help me, it's not just the kids that think that about the kids either. It's the
Yeah. It's a
yeah.
It's
So
everybody.
That's one thing I
sort of
thought
has
you
that.
always did extraordinary well.
yeah. I completely
You
agree
didn't
with that.
No,
Pick favorites, and you
Oh, wait a
tried to
minute.
get everyone involved.
there were favorites.
Yeah, but it was.
You didn't make it. You didn't make it known, at least.
If you did, even if you made it known, it was you had a good job of bringing everyone in, I thought, and picking out kids who normally wouldn't feel included.
But isn't that what the job's supposed to be? I mean, isn't that what I'm supposed to do?
It takes a lot of effort to do that, though. Because I think some kids are just a little more charismatic, or maybe a little easier to talk to, get along with.
Sure.
And so you can make kind of friends. At that point, you're all basically adults, young adults at least, and it's hard for the teachers who are spending so much time with these people not to, interact and make friends and pick favorites.
What was sort of like the strategy to get everybody involved, like with you, like when you went in every day? Like, what was the strategy to get everyone to talk?
Ask them the dumbest question you could ask them.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it would start out in the beginning of the year, and kids were like, "What do you want me to call you?" "You can call me Mr. Smith," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Smith. And then I'd use terms. Never mind. But anyways, I would just, okay. And then eventually it got to a point where they knew stuff that I know they would have known. And then I would ask them those very, very simplistic questions. What color's the sky? Not that simple, but what's going to, and then, they knew if they didn't answer, they'd really look dumb. So they would answer.
Yeah.
So you got them rolling a little bit, and then say, well, what do you think about that, man? And ask them something that that they're interested in. I always would try to find out on those types of kids, I would always try to find out, what is it that they like? What is it they like? "Oh, man, I heard the other day that you like Corvettes." "Yeah." I said, "Man, which one do you like?" And I knew a little bit about Corvettes. "Which one do you like, man?" And he said, "Well, I like this." "Oh, yeah, man, that's really nice." Get them rolling and get them going. So, I mean, I think every kid has got something they want to say, and they want to talk. They want to talk. They want to contribute. And I firmly believe this, and I'll believe it till my grave, that they want to talk and say things. And they have something to say. It's just a matter of who's going to listen to them, So when you're in class, those kids got something to say. Here we got Bully Bill here, who punches his kid all the time. And, this kid would say something, and you knew he wouldn't say anything then because I'm standing right over him. So the kid got it out, and other kids were like, "Yeah, man, I know how you feel. I know exactly what this is." That's how I'd get them rolling.
Yeah.
And it worked well. I mean, see, that's why I always wanted to I really would have liked to have got my PhD, taught in a university as a real university instructor. You asked me earlier about that, about it being a real university instructor and teaching teachers how to teach. And with that philosophy in mind that, hey, this is how it worked for me. It may not work for you. And without mentioning any names, guys, those people that would come, that you would go into their class, and damn well they didn't want to be here. They didn't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And they hated kids. They didn't want to be there. And it's like, but I got to get a paycheck, so this is what I'm going to do. So, anyways.
Do you think that you getting a higher education even is a step that you'd need to take in that process? Because, to me, I don't know what you'd learn that would be more helpful than your experience already. If Wright State's already offered you jobs and things like that, I don't see why you couldn't just do that.
I could. I mean, I could, but it would give me. Okay. When I was a high school kid, I could have cared less about school. You guys heard me say this before when you were in there.
Absolutely.
And I just could care less about school. I was more interested. I remember one time some buddies of mine said, let's put money in a pile, and whoever the first one or the last one that takes a book home to study something, the last one gets the money. And I said, by God, I'm going to win this. I'm going to win this. This is me. So, that's the kind of student I was. And you've also heard me tell the story about, I found a paper one time that evaluated every student, and they had a row of numbers, okay, and questions at the top, like, this kid works well independently, and you got a 1 if you didn't, and you got a 6 if you did. This kid works well with others, whatever. This kid does their work and stuff. My average score was like 2. I mean, that's how low it was. I mean, it was terrible. And then that wasn't the kicker on that, and a lot of people have heard this story, but the kicker on that was that at the bottom, every question had an asterisk behind it. And I thought, I wonder what that is. So I'm looking around the paper, and down at the bottom, it said, this kid is incapable of doing anything.
Wow.
That bites. I mean, I saw that, and I was already teaching when I found that record, and I thought, what the heck? Is that the way people? And then I was pissed off when I first saw it. And then I got to thinking about it more, and I thought, is that how people really looked at me? And then I thought, I can't blame these instructors for feeling that way about me, because that's probably the way I was. So that's why when we were talking earlier about kids, and we did a lot of stuff in school. We did a lot of terrible stuff in school. Terrible stuff. Just terrible. And so when I would see it, it wasn't like, in my mind, it wasn't like, go punish that kid, but go get that kid, pull him aside, and just kind of clue him in on what's going on. So that really, I think that my whole experience in high school myself probably helped me get into education. But I know people that I graduated with, when they knew I went off to school to teach, they're like, you're going to be a teacher? What the hell's wrong with the world, Why is that happening? So, yeah, and I think it turned out well for me. And seeing the success of you guys and all the other students I see out there, it's like rewarding. It's just a rewarding thing. So, and I'm not so sure everybody can teach, but you could if you set your mind on what your priorities are, on how you want to do it. How you want to be that guy. What do you want to do? How do you want to do that? Now, if I were a female with a name like June, I guess I could get by with it. But if I was a female, maybe I would have a different perspective on this. But I was in trouble all the time. Really, all the time. I was threatened to be expelled a couple times, just different stuff like that. And it just, and I always thought, you're not going to sneak something in on me because I've already done it. So that's not, don't kid a kidder here. So, and
did you go to Celina?
I went to IC. That was I went to IC. And so I've never left this town except for school.
What almost got you expelled? You got me interested.
Now we're asking the hard questions.
Unless you don't want to say.
No. It's. We were in gym class one day, and the only thing that I scored high on, believe it or not, and you guys are going to laugh when I say this, the only thing I scored high on was could do things physically well. I played basketball. I barely stayed on the team. Because my grades were just horrid, and barely stayed on the team. And but I could do things somewhat athletically and physically. So one day we were playing War? Is that the name of the game?
War,
we throw the ball at each other and try to kill each other? Is that War?
Dodgeball?
Not dodgeball. No, this is where you line up.
I don't think we've ever played that. Yeah, I don't think we've played that.
Well, you lined up like in the gym, and you couldn't cross the center line, so you throw a ball, and if you caught it, the guy was out, and then you could run up to that line and throw it at somebody.
Dodgeball?
Sounds a lot
Yeah,
like
that's
dodgeball.
but for me, dodgeball was a circle. But anyway, okay, we'll call it dodgeball. That's fine. Oh, that's right. There was a movie about that, wasn't there? That's a pretty good movie.
That's a good movie too.
Yeah, it was. Anyways, and I think those guys were adults doing that movie.
Yeah, they
Weren't
were.
they? Lord. Anyways, dodgeball league. Anyways, so I got a ball, and they like this freshman. I was a junior, and a freshman threw the ball, and he missed me. So I went and got the ball, and he was up against the wall. Like I said, and I just threw the ball, just missed his head. Boom, ba boom, ba boom, just bouncing off and bouncing off. The kid's like, screaming and, hollering. And then, so finally I thought, well, enough of this, kind of wore me out. So I just dropped the ball. Well, the kid runs up and grabs the ball, and I'm sitting on the sideline, and just about from me to you, throws the ball and hits me right in the chest. Bounces off. I took off after him, started choking him. Well, the parents came.
Not allowed to do that at school, eh?
No, we couldn't do that. And it was a parochial school anyway. So they said, we don't want him in. My mom said, oh, please don't. So, but it was funny. My senior year, I'm sure the instructors there hated it, and the administration as well. I was chosen to be the senior class president. So the guy they were going to expel a year before, now he's going to be the senior class president. So maybe they just did it for fun. But anyways, I got to be that guy.
So you are the class president. You got it. They voted you in?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Nice.
It was, I didn't really do anything, but I got it. And so, but anyways, yeah, I got it.
That might have been a jumping off point, though. Now you're...
Yeah, somebody else, well, I'll tell you how I did it. Sitting in the study hall, probably making gaseous noises or something. I don't know, or we'd make wind noises, and then we had a nun. I mean, it wouldn't have been, didn't matter if it's a nun or not, but she would get up, and she'd go over and check the windows and shake them. Oh, that window's open. She'd go back and she'd get up and look at it again. So we're like, oh. So finally, somebody comes up, the principal comes up and slaps him behind the head, and, go to the office stuff thing. I was in the office so many times that the secretary said, June, just don't go to your first class, just come here and I'll give you a job. So, I see her every once in a while, and she said, yeah, you should have had a job there. But anyways, I was sitting in the study hall one day, and the goddess of our class, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
the
yeah.
goddess. That one...
Dime.
Yeah. That one goddess. And she sat right behind me. And this was like during the 60s. And during the 60s, late 60s. And she sat right behind me. And they come on the PA and they go, anyone interested in running for office, please come and fill out a form and blah, 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 blah. You couldn't hardly understand. It's kind of like going through the fast food restaurant. You can't hear anything. And so I sat there and I'm like, I was one of those kids that just, everything was just the dumbest thing you ever thought of, And even though I was kind of sensitive, but, everything was just stupid. But anyways, I'm sitting there and the goddess is behind me. She's sitting behind me. And I said, who would ever run for office? Who would ever do that? That's stupid, blah, 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 blah. And she looks at me, taps me on the shoulder. She goes, I'd vote for you.
Oh, yeah.
Really? Yeah, I'd vote for you. And I go, really? Yeah. I said, okay. So I went and got the form, filled it out.
And she did vote for you.
Heard many more. Yeah, her and one other person. So anyway, but our class was small. We only had 73 in our class, something like that. We had it really small. 63, 73, I don't know what it was. A long time ago. And so we didn't have a big class. But anyways, senior class president. So maybe kind of got me rolling and stuff. And to be honest with you, Sel's the one that talked me into going out for, trying out for city council and running for election. So
really?
So yeah.
Were you on the school board too, or just city council?
Well, I wasn't on. No, I was on ICs. I was on a lot of their boards.
Oh, okay.
And then kind of fell in, and Cel said, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I go, "I don't know." And I'd always wanted to. Participate. I always wanted to be on Lake Festival committee and help out with that, and just stuff like that. Because this is my hometown. I grew up here, and So when Bill asked me, I said, yeah, did I have an agenda? No, some people have agendas that they want to do, but I didn't have an agenda. I just said, yeah, maybe I got something to offer, and I got elected, and it'll be at the end of this term 20 years ago. So
Wow.
Oh,
wow.
20 years.
20 years doing that stuff, so it's good stuff.
I was talking to Ryan Lochtefeld a little bit the other day. He was talking about how you guys are having to switch meetings to online and things like that with the whole COVID thing, and so it's been quite the struggle. What do you think about that whole thing? Has it affected your ability to, I guess?
Well, it's just like teaching, Going to those meetings, there's a lot of discussion in there as well. There should, and there's discussion that goes on before a meeting and in committees and stuff that kind of takes care of a lot of the nuts and bolts stuff. So people aren't just coming in cold. But anyways, at those meetings, if you were going to say something or you were going to say something, you're sitting there like, and you're thinking about what they're saying and you're kind of formulating some kind of answer, response, whatever you want to do. Well, when it was done online, what do they call it? Zoom? Is that something?
Yeah.
Okay. When you did it on Zoom, you didn't have that interaction, that physical interaction that really, I believe, kind of hurt it. But once they decided to go back, now we're like 50 feet from each other, and but we're all still in the same room, so it works out okay.
Good.
Yeah, but then I don't know if anybody liked it, but I mean, it still got the job done, and I don't know if it was good or not. So.
Fair enough. Are there any major, like, what issues do you think are the most important for Celina, I guess? What do you enjoy talking about the most? What do you think needs to be changed?
On a serious note, I think there's a faction of people out there that want to create this cute little downtown area. And they want, the shops. You guys been to places already where you went to those places and, Gatlinburg type thing, that type of situation.
Boutiques and everything.
Yeah. And they want to create that. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right, but they want to do that. And that's okay. That's okay. If I were to ask you guys, what do you think is the major commercial area in Celina? I would almost think that you guys would believe it would be, well, you tell me.
Near Walmart.
Absolutely. I have them in the road. That's the number one. Absolutely.
Sure.
That's where it's all at. And so my wife and I were just talking about this the other day. St. Mary's. Your family was involved in St. Mary's over there, and in that downtown area. And we got to get it back to the old days. Well,
I don't know. It's tough just because there's so many.
Yeah.
It's just
How
too
much-
big of enterprises now.
How
where
much of a
kids
play
can't
would you
fit in
guys
those.
even have in doing something like that? Because you can't really decide if businesses
Zoning
come
and
in
everything.
and
I'm
do
getting
stuff
zoning
on
and
Main
all
Street.
permits.
yeah, you're right about that. The zoning and all those kind of things, and make things available. Now, I voted no on a few things recently. One of them was the hotel, not because I was against tearing down the old motel. Motel?
It's a
Motel.
It was a
Yeah.
motel.
Yeah, Celina Motel.
Motel.
Motel. Yeah, tearing that down. I mean, it needs to go. It's had its time, but making money available. And I'm a believer in, if you do it for this person, you got to do it for this person.
Fair.
You can't be discriminatory in doing those things. It's just not a good idea. And so I just wanted to make sure that if we do this, that things will be made available to somebody else if they want to do it too. So we have some issues downtown, some buildings that were really, really in trouble. Well, you guys saw the tape around the building.
Oh
on
yeah,
the corner.
now they have a chain link fence around it.
Oh, they do. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it lately, but I haven't been by there. But pieces are falling off of it. They were up there putting the cones up there, and a piece of glass fell out of one of those windows and almost hit somebody. So could you imagine one of the festivals and people were walking by and all that stuff falling down on them, man? That's not a good thing. Charlie's Bakery, the old Charlie's Bakery building. Did you see where they covered that also?
Yeah, that it's like a black like metal sheet, like sheet metal thing.
And they put that in there. to protect so stuff doesn't fall. So there's a lot of issues down there. I mean, there's, some people have really stepped up. Some businesses, some restaurants and stuff have stepped up, and you know who they are, and made things available. And they're very active in, having things, Taste of Celina, Farmers Market, all those things. But, the virus kind of threw some of those things into a curve. But, people are looking for those. Young people down at 211 down there, they, having stuff, they got outside eating and stuff. People like that kind of stuff. Yeah. But to make it, oh man, that's a handful. And you're right. What does government have to do with that? That's all private enterprise. But they could help if they need help with zoning and those kind of things. So I think entrepreneurial type things are what people are concerned about. And they did a survey a while back. What do you want? Okay, if you want us to improve downtown, what do you want to improve? And it was like, well, how about restaurants? How about entertainment? I'm sure you guys have looked into stuff. Well, you did. I mean, down on the South End, entertainment places and places like that that people will come down to. Well, look how the boardwalk. I'm talking about the restaurant bar, but look at those. Look how people want to go there and try it out and see what it's like. So
like trying to force something that it just happens naturally almost. They're trying to
make it available. I'll just say that. Make things available.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how it should be.
People have, because I think modern society, they want places to go to. They want to go out for an evening. And, America isn't just always stay home every night and cook supper. It's maybe on Friday night we'll go out to eat. Let's find a different place to go here, here, and here, and here, and here. So I think that's why the clubs are so populated. VFW, the Legion, Moose, and the Eagles, because it gives place for those people to go and nice place and sit down and it's funny. I'll go out there on a Tuesday to sign in. And the average age out there, when I go in to sign in, there might be 50 people in there, are like 50-some years old. They're all like older guys like me, and they're all in there. And then in the evening, though, younger crowd comes in and stuff. So it caters to everybody. But
you're at the Moose, right?
Yeah. And I'm also an Eagles member as well. So, but anyways, to continue with your question, I mean, think about all the work that would take to get that back to something. I don't know if anybody has a vision of that. Anybody has the finances to do that. I mean, we had a really nice restaurant, that picked up and moved out there and went down to Haveman Road. And now they have a really nice restaurant down there, a really nice place.
I mean, it's just more economical. You're going to save money. You don't have to destroy anything.
Right. And you don't, and go where the people go, and that's where the people go. And, I used to teach economics as well, and I remember we always had a discussion. Why in God's name would anybody put a Subway less than a mile away from another Subway?
Yeah.
One right there in Walmart, and then you got the Subway. Why would anybody do that? I worked with that guy, by the way. And why would anybody do it? Well, you think about it, it's a whole different clientele that goes in there.
Oh, yeah.
You got people walking, I'd get a Subway today. And people that, if you want to go get a Subway, you're not going to go to Walmart. You're probably just going to go to, Market Street.
Yeah.
Market Street.
That's where you're going to go.
Yeah.
It's probably two different people, though, right?
Yeah. The one is run by the son, and the other one is run by, the older one is the dad that runs it. And I think it was a great idea because now we're attracting businesses from two different angles, but we're still attracting businesses from those two different angles. So it worked out pretty well. So I think those things, the city's trying to do things, the park. I mean, I went by the splash pad the other day.
There's a lot of kids there.
I saw adults running through there. Of course, it was 3:30 in the morning, so no, it wasn't. It was in the afternoon, and there were adults, probably moms out there. Their little kids in there. Well, heck, I'll run through that,
I think playgrounds are fun for anybody.
True.
Don't be ageist.
For sure.
I'll run through that thing one of these days.
It's really cool, and they've got it going the way it's supposed to go, and you just hit the button and you run around. But the COVID has really thrown a kink into that because the state of Ohio says every time somebody gets off of something, you got to wipe it down, or you got to do this, you got to do that, or I'm not sure what all they required that they do. So, what do you do? So shut it down. Just shut the parks down. And stuff.
Nothing felt more dystopian to me is when I drove by that playground and saw the construction tape on it. I was like,
oh, crap.
That's an image.
Yeah.
You're right. But yeah, you're right. And, and that's right as you come into our town, you can see the amphitheater. See, there was, I don't know if Bill mentioned this when he was here, but they had a discussion about having graduation at the amphitheater.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that is a really good idea.
A really cool idea. I mean, there should always be a collaboration between the city and the school. I mean, people come to Celina or St. Henry or wherever they go, and one of the first questions they'll ask, what's the school system like? Well, if you can throw it well, we have our graduation here, and so I thought that would have been a really cool idea.
They could have social distances. It's distance there too, or whatever it is.
Yeah, they could have, and
then afterwards, just run through the splash pad. There you go.
And I'm sure there would have been people that did that too. Yeah. So in that respect, I think they're trying to do that, but it's kind of it's kind of odd. You go by downtown. I drive downtown pretty much every day. I have a path. I'll go down Main Street, gotta check things out, come around, get on Market, come back around, come on down, and see it from the other side. And to see all those empty buildings there, that's a bite. I mean, it's just, and you wonder, what could we do? What could we do? What could we do? But, people, you gotta fix them up like that. What was that called? The building that's kind of fallen down. Doesn't matter what it's called. But anyways, I mean, what would it cost to fix that?
Yeah.
What would it cost to repair a side of a building that's, kind of falling apart? What do you do there? And do you tear it down? Now you got an empty spot in your yard or in your downtown. We already have one down a block down the other way, a big old empty lot there. So I do know that the people that did buy the Celina Motel, they are going to put like shops and stuff in there when they get it down. There's going to be some investment in there.
When is that? Did they say when?
I don't know. They're trying to get their. They have to set out bids to tear it down, and they're asking the city for some help. And okay. So I mean, why wouldn't the city help when it's assisting to improve the downtown? So again, if you do it for them, though, you got to do for them, you do it for them, and so on and so forth. So in that respect, so
that's interesting. I didn't even know that was an option for, I guess, businesses in the city to interact like that. I guess on large scale things.
Well, you know what? There's so much money available out there. I mean, there's tons of money, federal, state monies that are available, but only cities or villages or towns can apply for them. You can't do it, but the city can do it on your behalf. So that's how it works. So I'm opening a door. Everybody and their neighbors going to come up and
you just got really
tear my
busy.
neighbor's house down. It's a piece of crap, that kind of thing. But really, that's the way it works. So in that way, the city can say, yeah, we'll help you out here in that respect. I know when one of the local car dealerships built in Celina, the city said, yeah, we'll help you with this. And they needed to have some utilities moved and stuff like that. So the city said, yeah, we'll help you with that. And they did and made it available so it would improve some of the other car dealers. Well, why didn't you do that for us? He said, and the city came back, which is a cool answer. They said, what do you need? What do you want us to do? You didn't come to us. Why? What do you want? We'll help you out. So it really did. And it's funny, people will call me. The funniest one I ever ran into, and I hope they're not listening to this, but the funniest I ever ran into was a guy called me, and I've known him for years. He called me and said, June, my basement's flooded. And I go, okay, Bob, what do you need? He said, my basement's flooded. I need some help. And I go, do you want me to come down and help you? He said, no, but I want the city to help out with this. It's like, what do we do? So I got to thinking about it. So I called the utility guy, the guy that does the utilities in town. I said, we've got a guy he said, yeah, he's not the only guy it's called. I said, do you think maybe we ought to rod some of this out down here and really? Yeah. So they went down and rodded out. It was right behind the guy's house, his sewer line and manhole cover, and they got in there and rodded it out, and his water went down. He called me up and said, man, thanks a lot. Well, that's exactly what the city should be doing for people. I mean, why wouldn't they call? But anyways, he was one of the funniest ones. But people call me for a lot of different things, and if my philosophy is follow up on it. I mean, you're there because of them. Follow up on that stuff and give them a call back and say, well, this is what I found out. And during this Corona thing, I've gotten more calls since this started. What was it, March? Since this started, than I've gotten in all the years prior to this. People call me up and say, the neighbor's dog's barking, or stuff like that. Yeah. I go, okay. So I just know people to call, so I call them. Okay. A guy who rents called me up and said, hey, I got a renter. It's got a car, doesn't have a license plate on it. What can you do for me? I'll call you back. So I called around, talked to the police chief, and he said, yeah, okay, we'll go down. Went down and took care of it for him. So those are the things you ought to be doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
well, thanks for serving our community.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
you're doing a great job.
I don't know how good a job I'm doing, but I mean, I believe I have a responsibility, and I'll carry this back to my school days. I remember I had a teacher's, and you would all know this teacher, God love her, from one of the other buildings, called me up and said, no, that's not the way it went. This kid was struggling in class, and it was her kid. And he goes, I don't understand this. So he came in after class a couple times, and we sat there, and I said, no, look at this. This is the way it works. I think it was a government thing or something. I don't know what it was. And we were working through it. He goes, man, yeah, okay, I got it. I got a note from his mother that said, thank you for helping Billy. And I go, isn't that kind of what we're supposed to do? I mean, that's not an exceptional thing. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So I feel that way about the city. I feel that way about I felt that way about teaching. Now, some people will call me. I had a couple that would call me every day about the same thing, and I'd give them the same answer, and then the next day they'd call me again. So you get to a point where you say, I already told you what I can do, and that's all I can do. And eventually it just dropped off. And then we had something just recently with the boardwalk with the cleats. Y'all hear about that? Putting the boat cleats along. That was in the paper, and somebody called me about it. I don't have enough information yet to even give them an answer. Okay. I should have really called him back, but I didn't. Once I do get more information, I'll call him back because I know the guy, and I'll call him back and say, I didn't call you right away because I wasn't really sure what to say. So
better off that way too.
Yeah, you could say one thing. Well, he said, you know how that rolls.
It's a little dangerous.
Yeah. So
I think it's a good place to take a break.
Yeah.
All right.
Take a break, yeah.
Cool.
All right.
There you go.
And we're back.
Oh boy, you just clicked it and we're back. Wasn't expecting it. But hey,
3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Back,
you can get your.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
See, I told you I wasn't a techie here. I'm talking out of the top of my head here. So yeah, I got you. So what else you guys want to drill me on here? I got something I want to talk about. I want to talk about.
Bring it.
Yeah, I want to, and whatever. But as we were talking earlier, you asked me about how retirement was. You never really think about stuff when you're younger about retiring. And then, as you go through your career, I mean, I taught my entire work career, and and you get to the point where, you start thinking about it and you think, what am I going to do? That's down the road a little bit. So I guess it gets closer and closer. It gets a little shaky and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm not going to have a job. Well, teaching, I mean, I'm under state teachers retirement and I had some other things that I had set aside. So, I mean, financially, it's something to think about, but it's not drastic or anything. It's just one of those things to think about. But to me, the biggest issue was, what do I do now? I was, let's see, 65 when I retired. And I don't feel like 65. I mean, I remember when my grandparents were young, or when I was younger than my grandparents, they were like 63, and my God, they were old, And I mean, just looking at them, I mean, they were just like they were the typical get in the rocker and, fall asleep. Well, I'm 65, and I go, what am I going to do? I got to find something to do because I'm not a TV watcher, or at least I wasn't back then. And I got to do something. And my wife had not retired yet. So I'm like, oh, man, I got to find something to do. So I would talk to people, and, I knew I was going. June 20th, I think, was the date I retired on. And I remember talking to some people. I said, I got to find something to do. So I got a call from the lady that has a business out at the Galleria. And she said, June, she says, I heard you're looking for something to do. And I said, yeah, I think I am. She said, well, what would you like to do? And I mean, you got anything lined up? And I said, no. She said, how would you like to come out and do maintenance at the Galleria? Yeah, I could do that, And I had worked every summer but one in my entire teaching career. So for 41 years, every summer we painted, did this, moved stuff, fixed this, did stuff. Every summer we did that. So it's not that I'm not used to that, but I have to say that I'm not above that. I'm not above doing that kind of stuff. I'm not above cleaning a toilet. I mean, I'm not too good to do that. And my parents always instilled that in me that, if you're going to do a job, do it, regardless how well you do it. Make sure your name's on it so everybody knows you do it. You have done it, and this is your job. Good or bad, they know that you did it. And so I always kind of followed that credo, a little bit. So anyways, I said, yeah, I'll do that. Well, come to find out about it, there wasn't much, and she tried to give me as much to do as possible, but it wasn't enough. I'm kind of organized. I like to be organized. I like to know tomorrow I need to do this, the next day I need that. Not to a fault, but I just like to know what I'm doing. And so it wasn't really enough. So one day I had gotten out of there, and I'd go in at 8 and be done by 8:15. And I'm like, now what do I do the rest of the day? So I was standing in Chief grocery store, and I'm standing there probably holding a salami in one hand and a 6-pack of beer in the other, and I stand there, and they had that placard up, and it said hiring, if you're interested. Well, I knew the manager, and he comes up to me and said, June, what you doing? And I said, I see you're hiring here. He said, you looking for a job? I go, yeah, job would be fun. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, I'll hire you for the highest paying job I'm hiring for. And I said, okay. I said, well, what is it? He says, you're going to work back in the meat department, in the smokehouse, where the smokehouse place. Yeah. Well, smelling smoke for, 4 or 5 hours a day is like, ugh. But anyway, no. And so I said, okay, I didn't have any clue. I mean, I'd worked in a grocery store. That's where I met my wife. I'll back up and tell that story real quick. And when I was in high school, I worked at a Marsh store. And matter of fact, God love him, the guy who was the manager just passed away, a guy by the name of Myron Hyrett. Great guy to work for, and he put up with so much crap from us. I mean, we just did stupid stuff, and he would now, June or Bob or Joe, don't be doing that stuff. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, that's the kind of guy he was. He was a great guy, and he just passed away last week. But anyways, so I'm working there, and now it's summertime. They would bring in these trucks, semi-truck with no top on the trailer, and they drove in usually from Louisiana, and watermelons. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh. So this is how they unloaded them. A guy who usually looked like he bought 400 pounds, had arms about the size of barrels. He'd get in there in the trailer, and these were the big watermelons, these, not these little round green ones, but the big pickle-looking green ones. And he would get in that bed, and he'd throw those suckers over the top of that truck outside of the bed, and we'd have to stay there and catch it. And we'd be like, a couple goofies guys out there. We get hit in the head with a watermelon or something, So anyways, and of course, we had to drop one every once in a while. So, we can't sell that. We'll have to eat that. So
nice.
So yeah, it was good stuff. I really liked working there. And there's another story that goes on with that. And you guys probably already heard this story, but I don't know if the normal public has heard this, but a buddy of mine came up to me and he says, hey, he says, I got 2 tickets for this concert. He says, are you interested in going? I said, yeah, man, I'm going to go. He said, I said, when is it? He says, told me. And I said, yeah, I think I want to go. I said, where is it? He says, I think it's in New York. And New York? He said, yeah, we'll drive there and go. I said, yeah, I'm in, man. Who's playing? He said, oh, man, they got a whole bunch of people playing. And I go, wow, yeah, man, that sounds cool. What's the name of this place? He says, I don't know. I think it's called Woodstock. And I go, Woodstock, what's that? And he said, I don't know. He says, it's just this concert. So I go up to my manager and I said, hey, manager guy, Myron, I said, I got this opportunity to go to this concert in New York, and I'm going to need a couple days off. He goes, no, I'm not letting you off. I said, what do you mean? I said, I got some time. He said, no, you can't get off. I'm not letting you off. I said, well, I'm going to be real, cocky. And, well, I'll tell you what, if you don't let me go, he said, I'm just going to go anyways. He said, you go, you won't have a job when you get back. And I'm like, what? And he said, nope, you won't have a job. And I go, okay. So I had to go back to this guy, Jim, I can't go. Myron won't let me off. He said, oh, man, this would be a great time. He said, I know there's a couple bands going to be there. And
a couple bands.
Yeah. He said, there's going to be a couple bands there. He said, it'd be really cool. And I said, well, I can't go. So I said, I can't take the ticket. It was going to be free, too. I mean, it wasn't going to cost me anything. And, well, it was free anyways.
It turns out.
Yeah, it ended up being free. But anyways, he gave those tickets to somebody you guys would know by the name of Wally Ellinger. And Wally went, who taught it at the high
Yeah, he
school.
always told us he went there.
Yeah, he went and he got to go, and I didn't get to go. So anyways, that's my, I got one more thing about that early job. One day we're bagging groceries. This is when carry-outs bag groceries, and you help these people out, So all of a sudden, this babe walked in. And she was a babe, and she walks up to the office part at the store, and she turned in an application. And this guy I knew worked there with me, and I just got with him just recently on Facebook, and we're standing there, and he goes, wow, man, she's pretty good looking. I go, yeah, she is. So we're kind of checking her out, Well, a few days later, she appears behind a register, and she got a job there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's like, oh, yeah. Yeah. So this other guy's name was Rick, goes, hey, he says, and Rick was kind of a ladies' man. I was kind of a, goofy guy. And Rick says, man, I said, don't you dare. I said, you get all the babes. Don't even talk like that, man. I'm going to ask her out. So it was my senior prom. She was a year behind me. And I go up to her, and I just made sure that when she went on break, I was going to go on break. And, me, who barely got out of high school, and I think we had like 63 or whatever I said earlier, whatever it was. I think I graduated like 57 out of 63. I'm serious about that. I was down at the bottom. And there were some kids that were struggling with special programs, and they were even ahead of me. So, I mean, that's the way I was. And she was number one in her class. So I thought, I'm going to latch onto this babe because I think she can get me through. So it was my senior prom, so I was done with high school. So I said, hey, and her name was Ruth.
You should know that one.
I said, hey, Ruth, how would you like to go to the prom with me? Or senior prom. Now, when I was in school, I don't remember what you guys had to deal with, but when I was in school, we couldn't take anybody. How was that? You couldn't take anybody to the dance part from another school. Was that you all? And how was that with you
You can
guys?
take people from
Now
other-
you can.
No, yeah.
I think there's maybe like an age limit. Can you not take younger people?
I don't think you could take too old of people. I think that's
There's probably an age limit on either way, but you can do pretty much whatever you want, I think.
Okay, Kenya, I didn't know, but we couldn't take anybody. And, being the class officer, I had to give a speech at the dinner we had before that. So I asked a friend of mine to go, And she went with me to the dinner, and then I didn't want to dance, boogaloo, the frug. What the hell are those things? I mean, you had to know stuff. You just didn't jump around and throw your hands in the air. You had to know some steps and stuff, and I didn't know any of that stuff, so I don't want to act like I don't know. I don't want anybody to know I don't know anything, so I just wasn't going to go dance. But I asked her, I said, hey, Ruth, how would you like to go to the after prom with me? It was at the bowling alley. And I said, would you like to go to the after prom with me? And I gave her all my charm. Come on, guys. You throw the charm on, and I gave her all my charm. And I said, hey, how would you like to go? She goes,
yeah.
No. I'm like, I mean, what do you say after that? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you say? So I'm like, okay. So a couple days later, I still didn't have a date for the after prom. So I asked her again. No. I think I asked her like 3 or 4 times, and finally, I wore her down. Guys. I put
Persistence.
It was persistent charm, and I wore her down, and finally, she said yes. So that's how I met my wife from the grocery store. And I remember going back to Myron, the boss. I remember one time we were working in the evening, and how you are in high school, you have a high school job, and Myron says, "Now, June, you go over there and help Ruth over there in the cookie aisle." And then he looks at me, and goes, I don't want any smooching going on. Okay, Myron. Well,
Yeah.
So anyways, that's how I was at the grocery store. But anyways, so I got hired coming back to the present day. I went back to my old roots and got hired at the grocery store at Chief to work in the smokehouse. Great group of guys over there. There was one lady that worked there when I worked there, and then there's 3 other guys, and worked back there. And I mean, you didn't have to do anything, go out on the floor or anything. I mean, you were just back there. And I tell you what, guys, if you saw making that stuff back there, you'd just be like, whoa.
Oh, yeah, I saw it. I worked at Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
I worked back then in high school, and that was a great job. The people that worked there are amazing.
Yeah, they were good guys. And so I'm back there, and I told my wife before I went, well, she took off and went to see our daughter in Europe. So I'm like, well, okay, so I got to find something. So, like I said, she wasn't retired yet. So anyway, so I told my wife, I said, you know what? I am not going to get up before 8:30. And I'm not going to get up before 8:30, if that. Well, I had to be at Chief at 5, so I'd be like 4:30. I'd get up and have to trot off there, and it wasn't so bad in the summer, but in the winter it was
Oh yeah,
a little shaky. Yeah, it was nighttime until 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So. But that was a good job, and then I ended up getting carpal tunnel in my hands.
I was going to say, that's hard. They work hard back there.
Yeah, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't. I was wrapping stuff, and I couldn't figure out what was going on, and then I couldn't lift stuff in my back, and I thought, boy, I'm just really out of shape. Well, as I said earlier, I had back surgery then a few weeks ago and a couple of months ago, and so I found out why. So I had to quit that job. So now I'm not really doing anything. But I originally really thought about, and Jake, you made me think about this, about maybe getting a job at the hospital, and working at the hospital. I thought that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And people said, well, why don't you come back and sub? I go, no. I'm not going to sub. If I'm going to sub, I'll just keep teaching. I'm not going to do that. I want something different. So I really did think about, and my wife talked me out of it, like I said earlier, about going back to school. I would have thought about maybe getting a nursing degree, like maybe a LP, is that what they're called? Licensed practical LP nurse.
RN, right?
LPN, that's registered.
Nurse,
That's more.
Yeah.
But just an LP nurse and go over there and kind of do some stuff. And my wife said, no, we're not going to do that. And I go, okay. So I never did end up getting the job, but I really would like to get a job there. I think it would be kind of cool.
I say go for it.
There's definitely something.
Yeah, and the job, my ultimate job there would be like, helping people. Okay, I'll put you in a wheelchair and I'll wheel you to X-ray or something, and just aggravate the crap out of them, like I aggravated. And just make them something that they would with a little humor.
Yeah. Oh,
A
yeah.
little humor
Trying to
going on,
lighten
wheel them
the mood.
Yeah,
around.
they would definitely love that.
Yeah, I think they would too, because it's stressful anyways being there.
Oh, yeah.
But they didn't have anything for me. We said, well, we can give you volunteers. We can have you volunteer. And I thought, nah, I want a job so it gives me some direction, have some purpose and give me a little money and buy another motorcycle. But
Heck yeah.
but anyways, that's kind of what went on. So I really haven't done anything. And since I had surgery and stuff, I haven't really thought about it. But I'm really thinking about maybe finding something else. I don't know what I'll do.
Whatever comes along, comes along.
Yeah, maybe I'll, play guitar on the road or something.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not good enough to
Maybe,
do that.
maybe you'll get into podcasting.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I don't think so. You guys got that market already wrapped up, man. You don't need any competition. You guys are doing a great job the way it is. So, yeah, you don't need that. But so anyways, the retirement was a little scary for me. And then my wife retired about a year and a half afterwards. So it's really different. I mean, she would come home at a certain time. Then I always did all the cooking. I love to cook. And so I do all the cooking and stuff. And then she would get up and go to work and I'd be by myself. Well, now she's there all the time. And then she looks at me and says, you're here all the time. So we both are saying the same thing about each other. And people are retired. Hey, whoever's listening to this, you know what I'm talking about. So anyways, I've got this bucket list of things I want to do. And I've already checked off two of them, two things, places I want to go. And the first one I went down to Key West. I've never been down there. And we went down there, and a friend of mine, that's like I said earlier, he's like a brother of mine. Him and his wife and my wife and I, we were over at Gulf Shores or Destin or whatever that's called, and then drove over and they met us in New Orleans. Or no, that's something different. Anyways, we went to New Orleans last year, and my God, both of those places were just out of control. I mean,
New Orleans is like a different country.
oh my God, yeah. I mean, oh my God, it was. My wife was not impressed, and she wasn't really impressed with Key West either, because we were there during a time when they had what's called Fantasy Fest. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's like 2 weeks, and it starts on one Friday or whatever, and goes for 2 weeks. And the longer time goes, the less
Civilized.
okay, that's a great way of saying it. Less civilized it was. And I mean, it was like, oh my gosh. And, I'm an adult. I mean, whatever. I mean, but it was Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, it was just, it's crazy. And I'll tell you, we were walking down the street. Well, we were walking down the street, and there was this short girl. And she wasn't a girl. She was a young woman walking ahead of me. And she was like, I don't know, 10, 15 feet ahead of me. And we're walking down there. I'm talking to my wife, we're walking along. And all of a sudden I look at her and I go, what does she have on? And I looked, and I'm like, what is? She didn't have anything on. She had paint on.
Yep.
Oh,
It was
just
body
that,
paint.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was all body paint.
Columbus had some of those, some of that stuff, and I was just like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, it was like,
Yeah. So when does Fantasy Fest? I'm asking for.
it was yesterday. I mean, it was just, but the bad part about it, I mean, Key West is really neat. I mean, there's a lot of neat things there. And, but during that festival, they say people that live there just move away. They move out during that time because it's just out of control. And they have a thing there called the zombie bicycle ride, where they start at the airport there, and it's about 4 miles from the downtown main drag. The main drag's called Duval Street, and they parade from the airport all the way into town, and they're all dressed up like zombies of some sort. And maybe they'll do a theme like they had the Wizard of Oz zombies or the Little Rascals zombies, and they'd have whole families. Little guys were zombies and they'd be either running or somebody be. It was just 7,000
Holy cow.
participants.
Wow.
7,000. It was just awesome. But on the other hand, I mean that was pretty clean. There wasn't anything wrong with that. But people would come there, and they were probably like us because we didn't know it was Fantasy Week, that they'd have their families with them. Well, you didn't need little kids seeing some of this stuff. So, I mean, we're kind of disappointed in that. But I mean, it was wide open, and you could drink on the street, and you could whatever, and it was just wide open.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, they had the street blocked off. And I remember stopping by a cop. He was standing there. Sorry, man. He was standing there. I said, how do you keep this under control? He said, we just do what we can do. So but Key West was kind of cool. And then last year we went to New Orleans, like you said. It was a whole nother world. Now, this was just everyday stuff. So, I mean, the famous street, we stayed right in the French Quarter. And it was just an eye-opener. I mean, people from Mercer County, if you don't get a chance, you got to get out. There's other things out there in the world, other things out there in the world that go on that just whatever.
We had when I was in San Francisco, they had the Pride Parade there, and who I was staying with, they were like, "Oh yeah, most people leave right now," and I didn't really get why. And then during the Pride Week, I was like, "Oh, okay, that's why there's a lot of people walking around naked." It's like freedom, I guess.
Yeah,
And it's crazy traffic and everything.
Yeah, that
else.
is true too.
My aunt and uncle live on Main Street, and they leave when it's the 127 garage sale.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But you don't throw nakedness and drunkenness.
Yeah,
well, maybe you do. I don't know. But did you like San Francisco?
Oh yeah, it was great. The place is beautiful.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And the weather is just to die for.
Yeah, we were there in October, and it was just beautiful there.
The bridge too. We went and rode bikes along the bridge in the morning when it was all foggy and everything. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
You can see Alcatraz out.
Yeah, you could. Except when we were there and we walked across the bridge, we didn't have bicycles, and walked across it. It was so foggy, and Alcatraz is right there, and you couldn't see it. I mean, it was so foggy. A boat came under a ship came under there, and we couldn't see it. I mean, it was that's how
foggy.
That's how foggy it was. So did you stay right in San Francisco? We stayed.
Yeah,
across
we
the
had
bridge.
My buddy's mom's friend, I believe, had an apartment there, and so we stayed with her, and it was in the one plaza that's pretty popular there. I forget the name of it. I might remember it, but yeah, it was really cool. Definitely is like opens your eyes up to how much of a melting pot America actually is.
Oh, yeah. When we went through Haight-Ashbury, that's where all the hippies were. They were still lying on the street from the 60s. I think they were still, there's this old guy like my age later, waving and stuff, still doing his thing. So, yeah, it was fun. So,
where you heading next?
With the virus, my wife and I, my daughter lives in France. So we were thinking about going over to visit her, and that all kind of took a flying leap. So we were going to go in September, and maybe we still can. I don't know, but that would be a thing to do. But you know what? There are so many neat things to see in this world, and she travels a lot, and she gets out and sees all these things, and then she tells us about them. So yeah, there's a lot of things. And she lived in London for 3 years. Lived in London, so we went over to visit her when she was in London.
Beautiful there.
Yeah, I loved it. It was a big city. It's one of the largest in the world. And the history there is just...
Everything's just old there, too. I loved it. I went there when I was a kid, and it was just walking along the Thames and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Just
and seeing the Tower of London. And,
yeah, exactly.
And the things you hear about Tower of London, well, where's the tower? Well, it's not. It's like a big fort, But anyways, we went there and had a great time. And tried to figure out the subway system, and which is what was I going to say about that? It was a good time. I'll cover myself here and say it was a good time there when she lived there. And but I know what it was. She met this guy there, so when she came home for a while, she brought him with her. And he looked just like Ringo Starr. I mean, he looked just like him. I mean, if he wouldn't talk. Well, even when he talked, you'd think he had that British accent, So I said, "Hey, Lib, why don't you come in and talk to my class?" I had all seniors in this one class. I said, "Why don't you come in and talk to my class here? I think they would enjoy hearing you." So I don't want to do that, I said, "Come on, man, they would really." And she got in there, and she was started out "Oh yeah, hi everybody." Yeah. By the time she got rolling, though, I mean, she said, "You know what? There's nothing wrong with going to Columbus." There's nothing wrong with going to Bowling Green. There's nothing wrong with going to Toledo. But she says there are so many other things in the world when you're young. So when you said you were thinking about moving, I mean, I admire you. I mean, why not?
Same thing.
That was the one thing my dad told me recently. He said, listen, you're in your 20s right now. You don't have to worry about our health. You don't have to worry about keeping care of anything. You don't have to worry about a house. You don't have to worry about any of that. So just go and take as many risks as you can now.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to promote the risk thing, but
not just risk,
but and those kids were sitting there, and she said, I sat in the desk just like you all did. I'm sitting there just like you guys did. And I sat there, and she said, I went to Bowling Green, and she was on like the 8-year program there, I think, or something. I don't know. But anyways, and she met a girl there that was living in Chicago. So she'd go to Chicago and visit her, and she said, I love this city. So she picked up and moved to Chicago. And then she got a job with the Gap. And the Gap says, we got an opening. There's a lady that's on maternity leave. She's going to be out for a couple of years. Would you be interested? Yeah, I'll go. And that's how she ended up in London. So she was telling us kids, their opportunities are out there, and there's nothing wrong with those places, Bowling Green, whatever. But she said there is so much more out there. Don't let anybody scare you into not doing that stuff. So she really has. And I just got a call from her yesterday, and she was down at Saint-Tropez in France on the French Riviera, sitting on the beach and soaking it up.
Nice.
Yeah, she travels all over. I mean, she goes by herself. She's not married, and she just kind of goes by herself. And she went to Thailand by herself. She went to India by herself.
That sounds amazing.
Wow.
And she just does it because she says, I want to see it. So you asked me, where am I going to go next? We thought about going over there, and I wanted to go to, we were going to land in Paris, which I've been, were you in Paris when you were over there? We were going to land in Paris, and we're going to drive up to Normandy, which would
that'd be awesome.
That'd be very
cool. It would be cool. And then drive on up to Belgium, which they have really good beer there. And then we're going to drive up to Amsterdam.
Okay.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. And she told my wife, she says, now, Mom, Amsterdam is kind of a wide open town, so be careful there. Don't eat any brownies or anything.
My roommate went there recently, and he said, it's very wide open.
Yeah, and it's pretty
wide open.
It's pretty liberal. So anyways, so we're going to go there, and then we're going to go down to southern France. And our plans were that we go down to we're going to go into Spain, go down to southern Spain, and go across the Mediterranean into North Africa.
Wow.
That's what I really
That would be
Yeah, that'd be
awesome.
really cool.
Yeah, just to even be able to say, oh, yeah, I've been to Africa. What the heck, you know.
That's
But
one
anyways,
place that people don't go to. But
Yeah, I know.
I've always wanted to go to Egypt. And the pyramids.
Oh, absolutely. It's dangerous there.
Yeah,
There's
that's
no
the
doubt
problem,
about it.
yeah.
It's dangerous there, but certain places. This would have been in Morocco, and it's pretty wide open there too. It's okay there. So just to go and
Just going across the Mediterranean though too.
yeah. So, anyways, that was my next trip. So,
Hopefully you can still do it.
Hopefully
give it
too.
a little bit of time.
Yeah, she's kind of in between jobs now, so she needs some company. And you're in a country where that's her language skills there are not the greatest, so it's hard to get around. But she has a car. She drives for different places, and so yeah. And my son, he lives in Chicago, has 2 little girls, and he was a chef for 13 years, something like that. And it just like you said, it just was so stressful. I mean, you got 2 little kids at home, and he'd work 80 hours a week and never get a chance to see them. So he kind of switched out of that, and now he's doing other things. But so my kids get around, and so we're going to say, well, we're going to get around too. We're going to do things. So
Yeah.
So
The world's a big place too.
it is a big place, and there's a lot of places I like to go, but
What about Asia? You ever planning on going anywhere over there?
I like to see the Wall of China.
That'd be cool. Definitely.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. But I had an opportunity last year. They were looking for people to go to Japan, to our sister city, through the city, and they asked me. I'm the senior guy on there. I said, "Well, you have first dibs." I said, "No, I don't think I want to go. That's a long way to go," and I just didn't take it. And so to answer your question, I'm not No, I mean, there's other places I like to. I like to go to Greece. I like to go to the Eastern Europe, like Prague and those places. Like to go up there and maybe the Scandinavian area, but Asia maybe not. I don't know. Oh, how about Australia? How about
That
New
would be
Zealand?
cool. Yeah, there we
Australia,
go.
New Zealand,
Awesome.
huh?
I heard New Zealand was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, how many movies have been filmed
Yeah,
there?
it's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings was filmed there, so a lot of that stuff. So, yeah, I was just talking to somebody the other day who said they had been to New Zealand, said it was beautiful there. A friend of mine, the one I went to New Orleans and Key West with, his wife's brother was a priest, or is a priest, and he took a sabbatical and went to New Zealand and worked on a dairy farm for a couple of years, just to kind of get things straightened out a little bit and help him out a little bit. And he came back and he's back priesting again. That's even a word. So he's doing good stuff. And he's a good guy too. So, sometimes you just got to clear the cobwebs out and do stuff. But for you guys, come on, man, you can. The world is your oyster. You can.
Yeah, we're doing
I
it.
thought about until the COVID. I was really thinking about going and teaching English in Japan.
Yeah.
Just because
one
Snyder, one of the Snyders does it.
Oh, really? Well, remember Kaylee Ross?
Yeah.
She taught in Greece. Same thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and now she's back here and she's teaching back here. But yeah, she loved it. I mean, why not? Go do it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, I have an interest in it, so might as well.
Yeah, but you know what? Some people are homebodies. They don't want to. They just want to stay at home.
Stay the same.
And it's okay.
To each their own.
But, like Libby told the guys in class, she said, look, you have an opportunity. If you don't want to take it, that's fine. But it's out there if you want to. Like you. And that's a big move, man.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have a lot more opportunities than they think. And especially when it comes to stuff like picking up all your stuff and just going somewhere else.
It's
like
scary.
You can just do it at any time.
It's
if you want
scary.
to. It's scary, though. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, trying to make new friends. But, you guys, I mean, you're sitting here. You have trouble making friends? There ain't no way. I mean, I'm sure you can. Sure you can.
Not yet.
Yeah. My daughter, when we were in England, we went to Scotland, of course. I mean, why wouldn't we go to Scotland? So anyways, my daughter said, now, Dad, when you go into these pubs, he says they won't talk with you. They won't talk there. Because I'll go into a place like that or a bar or something, and by the time I leave, I know everybody in the bar and stuff. And they always yell at my kids. Always yell at me about it, but because I'm always talking to somebody. But anyway, they won't talk to you. I said, by God, okay. I said I'm going to go to, and I get in there, and these out of the way bars or pubs were just awesome. And we get in there and start talking to those guys, and they're, hey, come over here. This is an American guy. Come over here and talk to him. So I thought after that, after we got back from there, I said, you know what? If something would ever happen to my wife, God, I don't even want to think about it. If something would ever happen, I could see myself packing up, selling the house, everything in it. You can even buy my shoes if you want. Packing up, taking what I need, move to someplace like in Italy or outside of England or someplace like that, maybe Germany, and just buy a little place up on a hill and be that's the weird American dude. I mean, I think that would be so.
That'd be cool.
That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, you'd be lonely, but I mean, that's why you make friends. I mean, so I've often thought of that, what I would do, but I think that'd be pretty cool. But
Still got a lot of life ahead of you.
I think so. Well, my wife and I were talking about that the other day. My dad died at 77. All right, I'm 68, so that gives me 9 years?
Probably got more than that.
I hope so. I hope I do. And see, that's another thing. You guys don't think of that stuff. That doesn't even enter your minds. I don't think it does.
I somewhat do because I just recently went over to one of these old guys I used to know. He used to do a lot of the maintenance around the church, and he's about 95 now. And I went over and talked to him, and it really made me think about it more, just about how he was kind of telling me about. He's like, yeah, you kind of, when you're young, you kind of don't realize how short it actually will be in the end.
Yeah.
My accident, I still have a different point of view now since I got hit. It was definitely an eye opener. Like, man, any second you don't even know. You won't even know it's gone. It's done.
Right, and it could be just like that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if I'm going to go, I want to like that.
Oh,
I don't,
yeah.
I don't want to linger.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! That'd be bad.
That's the one thing I've talked to my dad about. He's like, when it's my time to go, it's my time to go. I don't want to be.
Your dad's
Don't
gonna
keep
be
me in a
walking out-
chair.
walking out in the field in the middle of winter or something.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had my grandparents on my dad's side, the Scott side. My grandfather would walk out of the house. He'd get out of his chair and walk out, and the front door would be an inch from his back. He had no clue where he was. Just didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to be like that. But and we saw a TV show the other day where some guy, his wife was terminally ill, and he kind of took care of business a little bit, helped her out to pass, and a few years ago that was a case. Somebody had done that, and I go, I don't know. I'm not that I'm plotting to do my wife in, but I don't know if I could stand there. I mean, we've been together 47 years. I don't know if I could stand there and see her suffer like that. So that'd be rough.
It's the morality of the whole
That'd be rough.
situation. And
Yeah, that'd be rough.
it's an easy. I don't know. It's a tough thing to talk about.
I think I've always kind of viewed death as like a new beginning. It's like you kind of, for new to come about, the old has to come to an end eventually. Nothing lasts forever.
It's easy for you to say now, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But we always think about our legacy. What have I left behind?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that I've done that impacted people? And you guys are a part of my legacy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And I was going to say, for you,
yeah.
that's got to be pretty apparent.
it is. And, and when I was on, now that I'm on city council, I look around and say, as a part of that, I helped that. So I guess it might make it a little bit easier to think, maybe I did contribute something to something and kind of got through that okay. But, Jimmy Buffett had a song, I didn't do one damn thing. And it was in his song. I mean, here I am at the end of my life, and I didn't do one damn thing. What is there? So...
I think that could also
Depends on
be
how you look at
a
it.
downside of having so much life experience, is because you've seen so much that you don't think you've contributed as much as what you saw.
Yeah.
Whether you think you have or think you haven't, you're right. It doesn't.
Yeah, that's true.
You're your own person. You're
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, So, anyways, that's my retirement story. So, we're still working on it. I ride my bicycle a little more, picked up my guitar and started playing it a little more. I think Sal said he picked up his guitar and was playing it.
Yeah, that's what he was saying on the podcast.
He's been reading books and playing guitar.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you do? You can't get out there.
He told me about the book Grant.
Dude, that thing is a
And
massive book.
it's like 1,000 pages long. And I was like, whoa, I got it. I was like, this is a big book. I'm going to try it.
Yeah, so, you have a lot of time and... well, with the COVID going on, you got time, but I mean, you got to find something that's fulfilling to you. And I'm not any better playing guitar than I was 35 years ago. So I thought about maybe taking some lessons and maybe talking with somebody, maybe your dad. I don't know. You never know.
I'll have to see.
Yeah. And so, get a little better. And my goal with guitar playing has always been, if I was good enough, like your dad, if I was good enough, it would be so cool if you were like in a mall, which malls are kind of on the way out anymore. But if I was in a mall and they had like a music store in there, and you go in there, like over at Sweetwater,
I know.
you go in there and you pick up a guitar and you're like strum, bling, 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 bling. All of a sudden you start playing, and people are like standing around, listen to you play. That would be so, so cool.
He's told me some stories about it. I think when he got out of high school, he just hopped on a train and went west. Went to California, and then he said he played on the side of the road for a while, then made his way around, hopped on trains back and forth, and came back eventually. So that's kind of what I imagine it. It's just, you got a crowd that starts coming. They're like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
I think you could do it.
Oh, I couldn't do it.
I think
make
you
a
could.
living on playing
No,
guitar.
I'm not saying make a whole living. I'm just saying learned guitar enough where you can just walk into Sweetwater and just
where you can entertain.
We'll see June
Just start jamming on-
like a couple of years on the side of the Celina, just ding ding ding, and just playing
127.
playing Eruption or something like that.
Yeah, I can't see that, but could have had a little flat hat on, wear a poncho or something. Oh no, that's Stevie Ray. I don't think so. But I did run into the other day, and I'm going to give a plug for her because she's pretty cool. Do you guys remember a teacher at the high school? Her name was Diane Hart.
I think I do.
She was tall, thin.
I believe
really
I do.
really nice person. And then she moved to the junior high. Well, she plays guitar, and now she used to be in a band, but I don't remember what band she was in. One of the local bands, pretty popular band. And she kind of got out of that, had a family and stuff. Well, now she's kind of on the road on her own, and she played out the Eagles the other night. So whenever I see her around, because her and I work together, and she plays, she's kind of having fun doing that. I mean, she does it early enough. She doesn't get home at 3:30 in the morning now, but she's really having a good time. But you don't have to play guitar or play piano or anything like that. There's a lot of things out there that people could do that just do it because you enjoy it and have fun. So, yeah, that's my story.
That's what we're doing here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What got you guys all started? Well, first of all, how'd you all hook up together?
It was all basically Hank. I'm pretty sure he's mentioned it to Hank, and then I was just like, one day I was just like, Hank, let's just do a podcast because I'm tired of like a bunch of famous people always talking and it's always the same stuff. And I was like, I just want normal everyday human beings to come on and talk and have their story told. I told Hank, let's do it. And Frank was like, "Oh, dude, perfect. We got all the
Already got all the equipment.
They
My
had
dad
the
was
desire, and I connected the dots.
he connected all the dots
But
for sure.
we're all friends from high school.
Yeah.
Jacob and I have been friends since kindergarten. Frank and I have been friends since high school. We became good friends, and I don't know. We just made it happen. You are our 23rd.
Oh, no kidding.
We've had over 1,000 or maybe a couple thousand at this point listens.
No way.
Yeah. So
Awesome. So, do you find it interesting that you guys, I don't know how old you all are. But
23.
I think we're all
23.
23.
okay,
yeah.
23. Okay. That when you were little guys, running around chasing each other around the playground, you look back on those times and now you're still, in a sense, mentally chasing each other around and chasing each other around. And I don't mean that in a bad sense, but I mean it it's kind of cool that you have friends that you went to school with and you're still close friends.
The games have just gotten more complex, really.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. You all remember those days when, the toughest decision you had to make was, I don't even know what you guys would be, but which Ninja Turtle to get. Or, that was tough decision. Now you got all those other things you got to worry about. So, but it's kind of cool. You guys are friends, and
we're all definitely fortunate to have each other. I mean, Jacob, I'm going to be in his wedding. I'm his best man, actually, and it's
awesome, man.
Yeah.
for me such an
Congratulations.
honor. And all my friends from Celina right now, it's actually really nice because they're all home, or at least a lot of them are, and so it's like a unofficial high school reunion. We're all playing around. Only half of them have serious jobs, and we're just having fun. 4th of July yesterday was a blast, and with friends I probably wouldn't have been without the whole COVID situation. So I just feel so fortunate right now. I know it's hard for a lot of people, but for me, it's been pretty nice.
Yeah. Do you see a time when there's like, maybe I ought to do something?
Oh, we're
Settle
doing
down.
stuff.
Yeah, you're good.
Jacob's getting
Always
married.
looking for
I
opportunity.
got a good 15 years so I'll have a kid.
I told my wife in the cookie aisle, I said, I'm never going to get married. She said, here's an Oreo. Try this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah, you just never know. But I got married at 20. At 20. I was 20 when I got married. And my wife was 19. And there are a lot of people and family members for sure. It'll never last. It'll never last. Well, I will say this in public that I outlasted my parents in their wedding, in their marriage. Wow. Yeah, and I got it, and I don't regret it. I mean, there's probably things I would have liked to have done, but I don't regret getting married when I did. So, I mean, it was funny. We lived in an apartment I was going to Wright State in both Dayton and here. And we lived in an apartment on Fayette Street. And I remember I was still trying to work at the grocery store and go to school. And she worked at Celina Group and, stuff. And I remember we had paychecks that they call us and say, you got to cash these because we need to clear the books. I mean, we just had...
Yeah.
I mean, we did have children. I mean, I got married at 20 and she was 19. And I just want to clarify something. Our first one, our Libby, was our first. She was born 4 years later. I just thought I'd clarify that. and it was just her and I. And it was a good time. It was a good time to get to know her during that time in which there wasn't a third being kind of dominating a life. And this has always been my belief that, if you're young and, you get married and say you have a child right away, and of course the maternal instinct is pretty strong. That's pretty hard to get around. Then the baby becomes the major focus. And this is just my opinion. The baby then becomes a major focus for the mother, and Dad is kind of the third guy out here. And he's not the center of attention for her as like he used to be. And if you don't know each other, that's going to be a struggle. You're going to struggle with that. So again, that's only my opinion, but I've seen it so many times with young kids that get married and kids I had in school. And I'm going to get married, Mr. Scott, okay. And then it lasts a minimal amount of time. So it takes a long time to
build that trust almost.
Build that, any of those things.
Yeah.
Any of those kind of things, and to get away. And I'll be honest with you, and I will say this on camera, that I wasn't the best at it in the beginning. I mean, I wasn't the best guy, and it took a while for me to kind of realize, and my wife, if she was sitting here, she'd say, yep, that's true. And, we had to fight sometimes to keep her together, but we did, and it was a good thing. So, anyways.
I think that's a good point to stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
June, is there
You
anything
satisfied
else
with that?
No,
Anything
guys, I really enjoyed this. It's been good. Good seeing you guys, and
Thanks for coming on.
oh
Yeah,
man,
definitely. Thank you,
I
Tom.
hope I didn't ruin your. You'd say you had over 1,000, out there.
Yeah.
Listen. So now you have
Something
4.
like that,
Yeah. June Sky. I ain't listening to that anymore. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
What was always the saying that how many bites in a Swiss cake roll?
Oh man, there's only all know that.
Yeah,
there's only 2 bites in a Swiss cake.
I will say this.
Come on, man.
You always say Okay,
Smoke them if you got them.
what is the story behind that? Like I you always said that.
Oh, I don't know.
You just well,
Well,
it's just something to.
you guys remember when I had the Swiss cake roll up on the wall?
Yeah,
I think it was there for like 10 years. Like, a Twinkie could be there for another 1,000, but it was always funny. Kids would give me stuff and I put it on that wall. When I retired, you guys were already gone. I just gave all that stuff away.
Mason Baker got your iPod. He talks about it all the time.
That stop sign's from Bill Sell.
Yeah,
When
there
he
you go.
retired, he
I
gave me
mean,
that.
people take that home, and there are a few things I wanted to keep. And I'll tell you a real quick story. There was a kid I had in school, and the kid was in trouble all the time. I mean, all the time. I hope he's listening. And he was all the time. He was getting into trouble. They were always calling him in the office and stuff. But for some reason, I always got along with this guy. And one day, I said, okay, you guys work on your stuff. So I'm going to go out back and smoke a cigarette or something. And I think that was from, what was the movie? Why Are My Brakes Done? Why Aren't My Brakes Done? I was just out back smoking a cigarette. What movie is that from? Come on, you guys know this.
I don't think I know.
Yeah, it's Coneheads. It was from the Coneheads. Just out back smoking a cigarette. Okay. But anyways, so one day they're working and stuff, and all of a sudden he comes up to my desk. He said, "Mr. Scott, look what I just found in my pocket." I go, "What?" And he pulls out. Here's a little Matchbox Corvette. The windshield was broken off of it, and he says, "I just found this in my pocket." He said, "Here, you can have it." Is that cool? I've still got that at home. It's sitting on I have a place where all that stuff's sitting, and it's right in the center. That kid wanted me to have that.
It's just,
it had, sure, absolutely.
Value more than it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so cool. Were you guys there when we were putting the money on the desk? Were you there?
No.
I know the story though.
What? Do you?
Yeah, you like had money on the desk to see if anyone would steal it or something?
Well, no, I had money, and I said, anybody need any money? It's right there on that desk. It was a kid's desk. And so we put a little styrofoam thing on there and glued it on there, and that money stayed there forever. Kids would need money, they'd take it out. Mr. Scott, we're missing some money. Next day, it'd be back.
Wow.
See, I'll tell you why. If you guys ever think about teaching or any of those kind of things where you're dealing with people, instill that trust in those guys. Trust them. Because once you get away from that, you've lost them. You've lost it. And I mean, you have to take care of business sometimes, but once you instill that trust, they'll do anything for you. Anybody will. Fellow workers, I don't care who it is. And like you said, when you were doing your thing, the police department, I mean, once you guys got that trust, that guy's protecting your back.
Oh, yeah.
You know that. So, anyways. All right, guys, that's my story, bro.
Thanks for
Good
coming
story.
on.
Yeah, thank you.
We also have to shout out Ross Flowdy because Ross has listened to every single one of our podcasts and he looks every day for a new one. He was telling us about it. So he was one of our
Ross.
greatest fans.
Good stuff.
Yeah. All righty.
See you guys.
See ya.
See ya. Thanks, guys.
Peace.